Welcome everybody, it's the Spoony Bard coming at you pissed as hell because I had an argument with someone that recently kind of got my goat. And let's go ahead and get into that and talk about the video games moving to digital. The future of video games has been for many years now saying that we are going to see them go full on to a digital media. This was something before the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 was announced that people were talking about. That games were going to move and transition away from physical copies, so those copies would no longer be available. Last year we saw an increased amount of sales from digital copies. Statistics showed that more digital copies of games were being purchased from people outside or off like PSN, Xbox Live, Steam, shit like that, rather than people going and buying them in stores. So what does this say for the brick and mortar stores that sell video games? Does that mean in the next 5 to 10 years we are going to see those stores dissipate? We're going to see those stores disappear. Game stores such as GameStop are going to have to find other ways to become relevant. These are all questions that deserve to be talked about. But more than that, what does it mean for us as gamers? Going to a strictly digital media definitely has its perks. In other words, I can sit my ass down on my couch, on my chair, in my gaming room. You guys, wherever you are, fire up your PSN store with the click of a button, buy a game, download that shit, and play it. No need to hop in the car, drive to the store, fight the crowds during the holidays. Whatever it is, lickety-split, you can buy whatever you want at the click of a button. Definitely has some very appealing sound to it. But the digital things moving to digital media has more concern than just that. This is coming from someone who grew up on the Super Nintendo, the PlayStation, the Nintendo 64, went from the PlayStation 2 to the PlayStation 3, who still enjoys and plays video games today. That physical copy to me, that disc, being able to hold that in my hands, walk out of the store with the new game, there's no better feeling that a gamer can experience. There's something about holding a physical game that just puts a big ass smile on my face and makes me want to continue to have that feeling. It's a gratification thing. And I get it, there's people out there who don't necessarily feel that same way. But things moving strictly to a digital medium needs to be talked about. Because what's essentially happening here is we have these companies who are trying to push for that because it is cheaper for them to distribute their games. They no longer have to use the production costs of a CD. They no longer have to go through retail stores and give up a bit of their profit to the retail stores in order for them to actually make money. They can post it on PlayStation, sell it for the $60 price tag, boom, instant profit. No costs of actually developing it to the disc or anything like that. They don't have to worry about any of that. So it definitely has their perks for the developers. But what this means for us is certain games, how long are they going to be available on the media? Like take the Nintendo Wii Shop, for instance. All those titles that were on the Nintendo Wii Shop, poof, completely gone. Nintendo shut down those services, so nobody has a chance to be able to play those games. Unless you had them saved on your system, you have no way to go in and download the titles that you bought. Another thing that has been happening with games such as Scott Pilgrim, the Nintendo Wii did it. They took off the original 3 Donkey Kong games off of the Nintendo Wii. They later brought them back onto the Wii U. But those games were taken off. That means if you hadn't purchased them, if you didn't have them downloaded on your system, they were completely gone. This is something that the PlayStation Store, Xbox Live, the Nintendo eShop can definitely do. The titles disappear, maybe they feel like they want to clear up room on their server and start taking away these titles. which means if they are not saved on your system, you have no way to go and you have no way to go and play those. There are certain ways to get around that from the past, definitely, but as we evolve more and more, video gaming is becoming harder and harder to emulate. And it shouldn't be up to the emulation community anyways to really preserve these titles to play them. So we essentially just have pieces of gaming history disappearing. And I fear stepping into a completely digital setting, we're going to see this happen more and more. More than that though, we kind of already have started to see some things transition into being digital. One of the main things was the video game manuals. Growing up as a kid, what I loved most was going to the store, picking up a game, hopping in the back seat, mom and dad driving me home. The first thing I would do, crack open my game, grab out the manual, and read this sucker from beginning to end. We can't do that anymore. Kids nowadays do not understand that feeling of being able to pick up a game and read the manual, become familiar with the gameplay mechanics. All this has been backed up online. All these companies have moved this to their websites where you can go and read this shit. You can even go to the PlayStation on certain games and pull up a manual to see how to play this shit. Or sometimes they're just included on the game themselves. Gone are the days of the paper manuals that give us explanation of the story, the characters, the world, the controls, the environments, who made the game. All that fun shit, completely gone. Completely put onto a digital front. And I get it. Save the environment, go green, you know. That's been big for the past 10 years. I can sacrifice my gaming manuals. But one thing I don't want to see is games completely taken into the market of digital and strictly only being able to sell them digital. And more than that, if you remember correctly, we did have that whole thing that went on with Xbox One, that whole big thing when they first made their announcement about the system constantly having to be online to play single-player games. And there are people out there, well, I don't get the idea. I just don't. It's stupid. And, you know, I mean, that means once Xbox One shuts down their services, once the Xbox One, if it had gone this direction, once they shut down their services, that means your console is literally nothing more than a glorified decoration that you stare at and say, this used to be my favorite system. This used to have a whole bunch of games. You have a whole slew of games sitting on your shelf, downloaded on that hard drive that you can't play because the services have been disconnected from the internet. We have games such as Destiny that are strictly online only. These MMOs, once they run their course, run their circle, you have a game that is unplayable. One of the most notable games that has shut down its servers that no one can play anymore is Asheron's Call. I remember Brittany Brombacher making a big deal about this and how she sunk so many hours into it because she had only a little bit of time left to play it, and how she wished she would have put more time and effort into playing this game because now it's gone and you're not being able to play it. These are some very real things we have to think about. And I get there are certain games that are going to be strictly online. I get there's going to be MMOs that are going to disappear. But it's more along the lines of just having a game just disappear. No way to play it. The PT demo was taken down by Konami. You can't download that. You deleted it off your PlayStation 4. You have no way to get that back. At least that's what I've heard. I still have my PT demo saved on my PlayStation 4. I am not going to ever delete that shit. And heaven forbid that my PS4 ever crapped out on me, that means no more PT demo. Completely gone, erased from memory. Never to be seen again. I'm going to see if I can back that shit up because that's something that I want to keep on my system forever. And there's people out there who are going to watch this video. There's people out there who are going to rant and rave and say, you're stupid. Why the hell would you want to play old video games? Nobody wants to play old video games anymore. Really? Is that why we keep getting remasters of old games? Is that why we have PS2 on PS4 them putting games from older systems on the new ones? Is that why the Nintendo Virtual Console releases? Is that why we see ports of different games from the past being put on Steam? Surely there's a market for it, and it's just not old school gamers like me and this new generation going, well, I just want to play new games. NES Mini, Super NES Mini, well, that's just a collector's item. It's only you guys going after it. No. There are people out there who want to share these experiences with their children. There are children out there who want to get a hold of these consoles, get a hold of these games, and see what their parents grew up about. What was the hype about Super Mario 64 came out? Why is this the pinnacle in 3D platforming? Why was this the game that started it all? Why was Doom so popular? The grandfather of all first-person shooters. Kids and people who have not had a chance to play those want to have the opportunity to do so. And by giving us that is something we get to experience. If it's strictly on a digital medium and these games can just be taken off the servers to never be downloaded again, that is a piece of history that people are missing out on. That is why people who collect video games hold on to their video games. And people who collect video games, they are essentially preserving the memory that video games once were. That is why the emulation community has just taken off, and you have these sites that have these ROMs that people can download. Because developers have not taken the time to preserve the games that they have made and make them readily available for anybody who wants to play them. There's things going out there that say, well, this is a possibility. You hear this all the time. You can download any game you want, any game you want to play, past, present, or that, and it's all going to be available on one system. But it's not so easily done so. Copyright lays into place. That is why physical games are essential. That is why physical games matter so much. Because companies only have certain amounts of time that they can have licensing to these games. Going completely digital is not the answer that people are after. Going completely digital is only going to end up screwing over the video games and making it harder and harder for people to go back and enjoy past titles. And that's not a world that I want to live in. Just prime example, Final Fantasy IX here, the game that I'm holding right here. This was my very first Final Fantasy game. Very first time I ever played a Final Fantasy. Instantly fell in love with it, wanted to go back and play all of the other titles. This was something that me and the Power Up Mushroom were talking about in our podcast. Remasters and why they are so important to the world. Without the ports on the PlayStation, Final Fantasy Chronicles, Final Fantasy Anthology, Final Fantasy Origins, I would have not been able to go back and see where this new series that I had just gotten into got its start. How many people have picked up Final Fantasy 15 and enjoyed the hell out of that, only to want to go back and see the games that started it all? Because of the ports, they're able to do this. They're able to play them. Not everybody is going to be able to hop from Final Fantasy 15 to Final Fantasy 6. I get that. That's a huge shift in graphics. But there are those who do not simply care about what graphics look at, and that is a video for another day. But there's so much that would just be missing if everything goes completely digital. And this is what developers are pushing for. this is what the common trend seems to be going. It's inevitable at this point that everything is going to be moved to a digital media. And it is flat out sad. And here's what's going to happen. Mark my words. What's going to happen is you're going to see these older systems, these games that have been taken off. You're going to see these systems that have these games that you can no longer purchase on the store being sold on eBay for outrageous prices, because not only are you running a system that has all electronics components, selling all that shit, trying to make a profit, you have 5 or 6 games, 7 or 8, maybe 10, 20, who the hell knows how many you have saved on your hard drive, that are there for the world to play, strictly on that system. And I can see people selling their systems on eBay for outrageous prices and people buying them because they want the games that maybe they can't download anymore. And then we're stuck almost in this even bigger bubble than we already are, which is known as the retro gaming bubble. The whole thing of where all these retro games are so overpriced. Can you imagine how moving to a digital form would make it harder and harder for people to go out and play the games that they want? This is a sad reality that I just don't want to see happen. I don't want everything to move completely digital. You've been listening to an old school gamer rant about why digital games are not the way to go. And I'm not dissing on digital games. I have bought the games digital. There's some games I played that I have on digital that I enjoy, but given the choice, I'm always going to buy that physical copy. Given that choice, I will always want the physical copy over the digital. And sometimes sales come along on PlayStation and I will buy it because it's a better deal. Like recently, I bought the Jak and Daxter collection. Rather than having the physical copy, which I could get at GameStop for $20, I bought the whole trilogy for $4. All 4 Jak and Daxter games. So it definitely has its benefits, and sometimes being a gamer, you have to go with the better deal. But those are also never going to leave my PlayStation 3. They're always going to be saved on there, so I always have access to play them. So thoughts, opinions, leave that down below, guys. I want to hear what you guys have to think about this. What do you think about a digital media? About everything going to digital media? What do you think about going download only with games? In what ways do you think developers, these stores such as PlayStation, Xbox Live, the Nintendo eShop, and Steam can go about trying to preserve games' memories so people can constantly have these titles downloaded? Can you think of any viable solutions that would rest assured people's minds that no matter how old the game was, they would still have a way to play it if it was gone into digital media? Because without those physical copies around, regardless of how outrageously priced they are, there are still ways for us to go and enjoy the games that we play. So thoughts, opinions, leave those down below in the comment box. Be sure to hit subscribe there for me to keep up to date with all of my content. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Links are going to be down below in that description box. You guys have been watching The Spoony Bard, and most importantly, stay happy, be happy, game happy. The Spoony Bard is checking out.